Hello, welcome to this module on using AI to write articles for publication. This is Erin. I am recording this in July 2024. The first question we want to ask ourselves is, can we use AI to write articles or generate images or code for journal publication? And the answer is, it depends. So some of the journals want different things. And if we remember our copyright module, anything created with AI cannot hold copyright. So this includes the author or the AI system. And this is important when it comes to looking at some of these policies. We're going to go over several today, which are listed in our module resources. We do want to recognize that every publisher is different. Publishers have different policies across different aspects of generative AI. So you will need to go to the publisher page to find their policies. Some, like Elsevier or ProQuest, may have blanket policies for all the journals that they publish. Self-published by societies may be also different. So if you have an open access journal or your journal is published by a group of folks, like the one that I'm on the board of, the Journal of New Librarianship, not technically affiliated with anything, but we are a journal and we do publish, and we are indexed in EBSCO. However, we are only indexed there and not owned by EBSCO. And so some journals, again, are owned by the database vendor, in which case they're the publisher, and some are only indexed by the vendor. In our case, it is EBSCOhost. And so as we look at some of the different policies here, Elsevier has a policy about using generative AI and AI-assisted technologies in writing. And so this is a very long page where they talk about their greater transparency and guidance to authors and readers, reviewers, editors in relation to generative AI and AI-assisted technologies. Elsevier is going to monitor these developments and adjust or refine policies when appropriate. So please note the policy only refers to the writing process and not the use of AI tools to analyze and draw insights from data as part of the research process. And so you can see here it sounds a little different, right? So it says you can do it for certain things, but maybe not for other things. So think about, as we read through some of these policies, that because AI can generate authoritative sounding output, we also need to be responsible that it could be incorrect, incomplete, and biased. So you as the author are ultimately responsible and accountable for the contents of your work, regardless whether or not you used a large language model. Sage also has a large page on their assistive and generative AI guidelines for authors, right? So they describe here assistive AI versus generative AI. So those assistive AIs are things that help you with your next phrase or suggest better or more concise phrasing to improve clarity. Generative AI tools are things like ChatGPT or DALL-E, which produce content, whether in the form of text, images, or translations. And so even if you've made significant changes to the work afterwards, if an AI tool was the primary creator of the content, this content is considered AI generated. So on this page further down, Sage describes their disclosure. And so they want you to disclose whether or not you are using any AI generated content that appears in your work. And again, this includes text, images, or translations. And you have to sign a form of content to Sage or Corwin, including journal articles, manuscripts, and book proposals. This allows the editorial team to make informed publishing decisions regarding your submissions. Things to consider about using those generative AI tools: they describe disclosure. They also want you to carefully verify the accuracy, validity, and appropriateness of using AI-generated content or AI-produced citations. You have to carefully check sources and your citations, appropriately cite AI-generated content, avoid plagiarism and copyright infringement, be aware of those biases which we've talked about, and acknowledge any limitations about using the AI-generated content. You have to take responsibility for it as a co-author. It cannot be listed as a co-author in your submission. Check for specific guidelines for a specific journal and stay updated. You cannot use generative AI to artificially create or modify core research data. You should never ever share any sensitive, personal, or proprietary information on an AI platform like ChatGPT. And editors and reviewers must uphold the confidentiality of the peer review process. So editors cannot share information about submitted manuscripts or peer review reports in generative AI tools like ChatGPT. They also link to several other articles on their page. And they provide you with a template as well. So highly recommend look at SAGE's guidelines there. Taylor and Francis also clarifies their responsible use of AI tools in academic content. And they also provided expanded guidance on AI application for authors, editors, and reviewers. They do say that authors are accountable for the originality, validity, and integrity of the content of their submissions. So AI tools are not listed as authors. For full guidance, you can read their entire policy. And again, they talk about the inaccuracy and bias of these tools, lack of attribution, the confidentiality and intellectual property risks of using them, and unintended uses. Generative AI tools must not be listed as an author because such tools are unable to assume the responsibility for the submitted content or manage copyright and licensing agreements. Authors must clearly acknowledge whether the article in a book had any use of generative AI tools through a statement which includes the full name of the tool used with version number, how well it was used, and the reason for its use. So again, you must disclose whether or not you used a tool. They give you more information here on that page. For IEEE, their guideline is very short. And so IEEE is one of those databases that deals with electrical engineering and computer science and computer engineering. Many of the documents in IEEE include conference papers, and these papers are still going to have to be part of this guideline process. If you submit to anything for a conference for IEEE, recognize that they do say that you have to disclose, so you identify and be specific in the sections of the paper that use AI-generated content and accompany with a brief explanation regarding the level at which the system was used to generate the content. If you're using something like Grammarly for editing and grammar enhancement, it is not considered part of this policy. So disclosure, as noted above, is only recommended if you're using AI tools to help you with something like your literature review or other aspects of research like text, figures, code, images. Springer Nature also has a section, but I just pulled out their section on generative AI images. I thought this was interesting because they do point out at the bottom that not all AI tools are generative. If you're using non-generative machine learning tools to manipulate, combine, or enhance existing images or figures, that needs to be disclosed in the relevant caption upon submission to allow case-by-case review. And they talk about how their exceptions are images or art that is obtained from agencies from which they also have contractual relationships with, and that these images have been created in a legally acceptable manner. So we're not breaking anybody else's copyright. PLOS also talks about having an AI policy here, and this is part of their policy. And they discuss that if you use these tools or technologies to a study to enhance the article's contents, you must clearly report it in a dedicated section in the methods or in the acknowledgement section for your article types lacking a methods section. So this section should include the names of any tools you used, which would probably also describe parts of version numbers and all that stuff. So you'd want to include all the information you can about the tool, a description about how you use the tool and the evaluated validity of the tool's outputs, so make sure you do that, and then a clear statement of which aspects of the study, article contents, data, or supporting files were affected or generated by the AI tool usage. They go on here to describe a little bit more about that. So as we've seen, there are variations of these policies across multiple databases. It depends upon how you're using it, why you're using it. Most databases, most of these publishers want you to disclose whether or not you've used it and how you used it. And we should all start doing that if we are using any of the tools that we've talked about